You are watching The Horizon, the voice of the Amber Woman, exclusively on ABC Amber TV.
Mutumbu, mama yo, na ya boy go get her. Blue Jay Borders. Mama yo kind, mama you're beautiful, mama you good, mama you're wonderful. No woman like you, mama. No woman like you, mama. Thank God for you, mama. Thank God for you, mama. 'Cause you gave me life, oh mama. Queen of my life, oh mama. I go love you for life, oh mama. 'Cause you love me so, oh mama. From small begin, I never forget all the suffer when you suffer for me. Oh yeah, yeah. All the pain and the troubles where I put you through. I remember when money no be there and chop no be there for her. You be the try your best. You go run around to find us something where we go chop. When I dey sick, you know the sleep. You go the cry all night. You go hold me tight, start to pray, say God make you help my oh Lord. Ooh, I wo ye choma. Afunga na bere ye funga choma. Ambama na bere ye ambama choma. Enga na chinu ye ga choma. Mama, I wo ye choma. Afunga na bere ye funga choma. Ambama na bere ye ambama choma. Enga na chinu ye ga choma. Ye ga choma, mama. Enga na chinu ye ga choma. Chinu ye ga choma. Oh, you gave me life, oh mama. Queen of my life, oh mama. I will love you for life, oh mama. 'Cause you love me so, oh mama. You're my motivation. You gave me the best education, mama. The song where I sing I'm for you. Now it's special dedication to you. Oh yeah. I know say every night and day you pray say make a mama. The God where you the pray I'm for heaven down. Give me this inspiration, mama. The song where I sing I'm for you. Now to show my appreciation to you. Ubi ya wo ye choma. Afunga na bere ye funga choma. Ambama na bere ye ambama choma. Enga na chinum ye ga choma. Mama wo ye choma. Afunga na bere ye funga choma. Ambama na bere ye ambama choma. Enga na chinum ye ga choma. Chinum ye ga choma. Chinum ye ga choma. Chinum ye ga choma. You gave me life, oh mama. Queen of my life, queen of my life.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to The Horizon, the voice of the Amber Woman. This is Dr. Patience Abiedu, popularly known as Ma Patience. And I want to greet everyone watching us from the home front, from ground one, from all over the diaspora. We are the voice of the Amber Woman, and we are staying the course. Today is an exciting day. You may notice that I am wearing red. This month, February, is the month of American Heart Month. So during this month, we like to bring awareness about cardiovascular disease. And I have today with me a very important guest. By the way, the theme of the Heart Month 2023 is Take Up a Heart Healthy Habit. Let me repeat, take up a heart healthy habit. But before I continue, let me introduce to you our guest for today. He is not new to TV, ABC Amber TV, but this is his first time on The Horizon. Dr. Lobadi, it's my pleasure to have you on The Horizon. Please thank the people and introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm very happy to have been honored to be invited to this program. I've been watching this program over the past couple of years, and I'm very happy how you guys are staying the course and remaining faithful to our people. I'm happy to contribute. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And you know that your significant other, Mawini Lobadi, has been a frequent guest on our show. So
Mhm.
we are happy that you have joined her today. So
Okay.
without further ado, we will just delve into the topic. We have two topics today. We'll be talking about heart awareness, and then we'll also talk about the Gabu massacre of 2020. Um, so according to the World Health Organization, cardiovascular disease or heart disease is the leading cause of death globally. It is estimated that about 17.9 million lives are lost each year from cardiovascular disease. So, Doc, there's a lot of questions I have for you today. There are a lot of questions I have for you today. So let's just
Mhm.
go delve right into it.
Mhm.
What are cardiovascular diseases, or what is heart disease?
Well, some people simplify it easy by just calling it heart disease, but the heart is in a system we call cardiovascular system, which means the human body has multiple systems um, that keep the human body functioning. So the cardiovascular system consists of the heart that we all talk about, but you also have the vessels. That is where the vascular comes in, that take blood to the heart or from the heart to the rest of the body to provide nutrients to the remote parts of the body, as well as take away, bring back waste products from those parts of the body and carry them to be discarded off. And the heart basically functions as an organ that pumps that blood all over the body uniformly. And so the heart is about the size of your fist for an average human being. If you make a fist like this, that is almost the size of your heart, and it's located on the left side of your chest, around where you have your breast or your nipple, looking towards your left side. That's where your heart is located. And then out of this heart comes great vessels, almost like pipes, the ones that take blood from the heart to the rest of the body, where you have the big one like the aorta that curves like a walking stick, turns around and goes down to the legs and other parts of the body down there, and then another vessel that goes up to your head or to your arms. And then after the blood has been delivered to the remote parts of the body, it comes back to the heart in the form of the veins. They collect and meet back on the right side in what we call the right side of the heart, and enter the right side that pumps the blood through the lungs to exchange the bad carbon dioxide was produced by the remote parts of the body in exchange for oxygen that the body needs so that it can be carried back to the rest of the body. And after it goes through the lungs, then it enters the left side of the heart that pumps it back through the whole body. And this cycle continues throughout. This heart is made up of multiple parts. You have the muscle that squeezes. If you have killed an animal, you've seen the muscle. Some people cook it and eat it like meat, but its consistency is different from the regular muscle. So you have the muscle of the heart that pumps, and then you also have the valves, which are like doors that open to ensure that blood goes only in one direction uniformly. And then you also have a conduction system which acts like electricity that tells the heart when to squeeze and when to relax. So all of these components, the muscle, the doors or the valves, and the electric components, they constitute together all what is called the heart. And then, of course, the heart itself is an organ that also needs to be fed. So you also have blood vessels that carry the same blood that the heart is pumping out back to the heart to provide its own nutrients, oxygen and nutrients, and then from the heart back so that it can be reoxygenated in the lungs. Those are the vessels that provide nutrients to the heart. They call them the coronary arteries, and then the veins that carry it back. So these vessels, together with the muscles, the valves that open electric activity, they all combine constitute what is called the heart. So when we talk of heart disease, it means something that affects any component of the heart that makes it not to function the way it was supposed to function. Basically, squeezing and relaxing to pump blood throughout the body in a uniform fashion so that you have a laminar flow. And so, any portion of the heart that is affected constitutes heart disease.
Wow, that is such a wonderful description of the anatomy of the heart, and I hope our people are listening. So, this very, very important organ in the body, as you've described it, uh, can be affected in a number of ways to cause heart disease. So, I
Mhm.
will just go to the next question, Dr. Lubadi. So, because you've mentioned that any part of this structure that you've described can be affected, could you tell us which is the most prevalent one that is affected that can cause a problem for the normal human being?
Correct. So the one that we know about frequently, that everybody talks about commonly, is heart attacks. That means basically those arteries that carry blood from the aorta as soon as they exit the heart and back to the heart to provide nutrients and oxygen, they can get calcified and blocked with time, and this we call arteriosclerosis with calcium and cholesterol plaques, and that reduces the lumen through which the blood flows to the heart, so that the heart gets less blood. And when that happens, then the portion of the heart that does not get enough food, enough oxygen, dies, and the portion of the heart that dies causes the heart to be weaker. So this arteriosclerosis, these blockages of the arteries that supply blood to the heart, is the most common cause of heart disease that people talk about, particularly in the Western world. The incidence or the prevalence of that disease is increasing worldwide because as people become a little bit more sophisticated or wealthy, then they tend to live and eat like people of the Western world, and they eat those kinds of food that cause those cholesterol plaques. For natural people who live like our people live, say in Ambazonia or in what some people call underdeveloped parts of the world, they eat simple foods, live simple lifestyles, and they don't really experience significant atherosclerosis, and they don't have any significant heart attacks like you would have here in the West. But the prevalence and the incidence of heart attacks are increasing also in underdeveloped countries, particularly among the wealthy. My
Okay, I
patients, are
think
you there?
I'm here. Can
Yes.
you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So you've told us about the heart attack as the most prevalent, and it's true. Most people, we always hear in the community that someone has died of heart attack, and so it's because of that particular portion of the body that is the one that is most prevalently affected. So we have so much to talk about, and but the thing that we want to share with our people is what they can do. So, what causes heart disease, and what is the number one risk factor for heart
Okay.
disease, and what should everyone know in order to prevent or protect themselves from heart disease? I think this is just the most important question that we want to answer today.
Correct. Before I go further to that, to answer that question, when people say somebody died of a heart attack, most often they are wrong. They're just assuming. What they meant is that the heart stopped. Actually, anybody who dies, your heart has stopped finally. That's why you died. When the heart has finally stopped, then we pronounce you dead. Even if you are brain dead and other parts of your body are working, are not working, including the kidneys or wherever, but your heart is still pumping, you are not yet dead. As soon as your heart stops, then you're dead. And if you go back very early when a woman is pregnant, as early as 5.5 weeks after a woman gets pregnant, which is 5.5 weeks after the first day of the menstrual period. They, by sophisticated machinery like the ultrasound, you can detect heartbeats. And from that day that the heart is beating that we can detect, that continues until the day that the heart totally stops, then you are dead. Now, so most often in, say, third world countries, when they say that somebody has died of a heart attack, that's not true. What they meant is that the heart stopped working. It's not because the patient truly had arteriosclerosis that blocked the arteries, and then a clot blocked the vessels and a portion of the heart died, and then it led to the heart dying. That diagnosis is done more by cardiologists, special doctors who have been trained to diagnose in a special laboratory, which we call the cath laboratory. They have to inject a chemical, they have to go with a wire, inject a chemical through the arteries to detect the area where the blockage took place before you make that diagnosis. So when they say that kind of thing, for example, in La République du Cameroon, they are just lying. What they meant is that the heart stopped. It's not because the patient died of a heart attack, and the heart can stop for different reasons. Any serious health condition can eventually lead to a point where the heart literally stops working. That is the ultimate cause of death. So the question now we're trying to focus is in terms of the cardiovascular system, which is the one I'm talking about. When we have so many different, we have the nervous system, we have the musculoskeletal system, the urinary system, the gastrointestinal system, but we're focusing today mainly about the cardiovascular system, which is the heart in combination with the vessels we talked about. You had the arteries that take blood from the heart to the rest of the body, and the veins that take blood from the rest of the body back to the heart. This system, together with the heart, is called the cardiovascular system. So, what can we do to prevent disease in this system that helps us to get well? So, like I mentioned, that the leading cause of death, um, especially in what is called industrialized, sophisticated, well-developed countries like the United States, is arteriosclerosis or cholesterol plaques in the coronary arteries. This does not select only the coronary arteries. The process occurs in all arteries all over the body. So even the brain, the arteries that go to your brain, that's what eventually leads to some strokes. There are different kinds of strokes. The ones that go, say, to your extremities, say your legs, your arms, and other body parts, they can also have the same cholesterol plaque buildup and blockage of vessels, and that can lead also to uh, reduced flow of blood to those parts of the body and infarction. So basically, an infarction means that that portion of the body that is supposed to be supplied by the blood vessel is not able to get sufficient nutrients, and then it literally starts dying off. That's when people have symptoms, or eventually dies off and scars off. And with the heart, we call it a heart attack. With the brain, we call it a stroke. With the extremities, say your legs, we can call it a gangrene, when it does not get enough blood and then the tissue starts dying off, we can call it gangrene. This can happen in internal organs like the kidneys, any organ system, even the bowels as well. If they don't get enough blood flow, they can also have an infection, which we call ischemic bowel. That's a doctor kind of expression, which doctors will understand. So the question is, how do we prevent this process of uh, damage to the vascular system that leads to, for this sake, the heart eventually stopping to work? And there are so many different things that we can do. Generally, there are some things that we can do something about, and there are others that we cannot do anything about. For example, um, all parts of the human body age. So as we live, when you are 20 years old, you look young, dynamic, healthy, everything looks great, you're functioning well, you've matured from a small child to a mature adult. But as you live longer, by the time you get above 60, 70, 80, you realize that your body is no longer functioning like before. Your joints, they start aging, they start causing a lot of pain and aches and things like that. Your vision may not be good, you may not be hearing well. This process does not occur only in those outward organs that I talked about. It happens with all organs of the body, including the heart. And so age is something we cannot do anything about. All our body systems are going to age and then come to a stop, which is why people eventually die. Even if they live in a society where you don't have cholesterol plaques to your coronary arteries, you eventually still die just from natural process of aging. Um, so the age is one thing that you cannot do anything about. Another process is like gender. We know that men, for especially the societies with atherosclerotic disease highly prevalent, like in the West, men have more of this than women. And part of it is if you go into detailed studies, women are protected by estrogen during their childbearing age because they are, when they produce a lot of estrogen, the estrogen has a protective mechanism on blood vessels. That's why the women will catch up later, like 10, 20 years, much later after menopause, to what the men had already started experiencing with cholesterol black plaques in their vessels. So being a man, you cannot change the fact that you're a man. Getting old, you cannot change the fact that you are getting old. And then there are some ethnic groups. But there are other things that you can do to protect yourself from your blood vessels rapidly getting uh, degenerated or getting those blockages and then leading to death. The main one that any doctor will talk to you about is smoking, for example. That is the leading one. Whenever they put all the risk factors, the big one to pick is smoking. So, smoking cigarettes has been documented to cause significant destruction to internal organs, even causing cancers, but also to the cardiovascular system, and is the leading cause of atherosclerosis, not only to the heart but also to the extremities and even causing strokes. So that's why we advise people not to smoke. Then it comes back to lifestyle, things that how we live our lives and what we eat and things that we do can lead to this degenerative process. For example, if you are not active, you just sit in one place, you don't do a lot, it's not healthy for your body. It's been demonstrated that every human being should be physically active, walking minimum 7,000, 10,000 steps a day, and or run. If you do those things, you keep not only your heart and your cardiovascular system, your entire body, including your brain and even your sense of well-being in all areas, including your joints, you keep them more healthy. So being physically active, uh, walking, running, jogging, so many different aspects is very healthy for you. So now you see some people, they think that when you become wealthy, and you buy yourself a sophisticated car. You don't even run around. You always sit in your car, sit in one place and eat. It's not very healthy for you. While on the other hand, somebody who lives in a village, like imagine for ourselves deep in the village in Ambazonia, they don't have any cars. They walk long hours to go to very far away. They work
Yeah.
very hard and they dance. Those people actually are healthier. They're taking better care of their hearts than the person who appears to be rich, doing nothing, sitting in his car, just eating and getting fat. That is not healthy. So, physical activity is one thing. Then, eating good food. What we know is that the natural food that grows in a natural environment is healthy for your body.
Yeah.
The foods that man has prepared in industries and manufactured and processed is not very healthy for your body. You can go into so many details. So if you go back to our villages, our people live in the farms. They harvest their natural food. We get bananas behind the house. We have all kinds of fruits and all kinds of vegetables. Those are actually very healthy for our people. That's why you didn't see them having a lot of atherosclerosis disease. Even the palm oil that we eat is a naturally produced oil. While on the other hand, if you come to a society like here where food is overprocessed to the point where now even meat is artificially manufactured in factories, those overprocessed um, uh, foods and when you eat those, they do contribute to the atherosclerosis in the human body. So the kinds of food that you eat contribute to disease. So if you can eat natural food, things that grow by themselves without a lot of manufacturing with application of chemicals, it's more healthy for your body than artificially produced foods. So being physically active, eating the right foods, you can go and mention them in different variety. Every component of food has its role for the human body, whether it's fruits, vegetables, nuts, all the different things that are available in nature have their role to keep humans healthy. So you want to diversify your food. You don't want to be like a fast food kind of a person here in the United States. You get a pizza and get a McDonald's over there. Those things, when they look as yellow, greasy like McDonald's burger, that is exactly what blocks the coronary vessels. And if you dissect a coronary vessel and you see the cholesterol plaque, they look like a McDonald's burger. So the more you eat of such foods, the more you cause harm to your body. But the more you eat natural foods, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and all the other things, you will be more healthy. I know sometimes it can be very costly in this society if you don't have enough money to buy the variety. So some people who don't have money just buy something cheap to keep themselves going. Even it's that is developing also in our societies because most of our people don't have money anymore. They're just struggling to survive and happy to have a meal. But if you can afford diversification of your food, can be very, very healthy. When you do those things and you avoid smoking and you're physically very active, it will protect you from having so many different diseases that contribute to heart disease. Those other diseases that contribute to heart disease include, as we will talk about, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, things like diabetes. And there are other diseases that you don't have anything to do about. It just comes with the fact of your how your body is made up, like connective tissue diseases, like rheumatoid arthritis, lupus erythematosus. Those other diseases can also contribute to heart disease, but it is not very much your fault. It's just some part of the way your body is made. However, you can prevent and or slow the rate of developing high blood pressure by eating less salt and being very healthy, being physically active. You will help to reduce your blood pressure. You will help to reduce the cholesterol build up or the lipids that build up and cause cholesterol plaques. You will help to protect yourself from having diabetes early or even having diabetes at all. You will help to get on unnecessarily fat. With our people, they think that when you look fat, it means that you are enjoying life. That's not true. It's not true at all. Somebody who has eaten too much and has a lot of what we call belly fat, we call it central obesity. Here, where you look, a man looks almost like a 9 months pregnant woman. That is not a man who is enjoying himself. That person is at very high risk and will die early. I doubt they will even get to be 80 years old. So when you remain physically active, you eat healthy, you will reduce the rate of developing getting foolishly fat. You will reduce the rate of developing like the cholesterol that I was talking about that builds plaques, and even developing like high blood pressure and diabetes. um, then another thing that is very important, we know that people who are emotionally stressed, psychosocial stress, people who are depressed, that can also cause heart disease or cardiovascular disease because people who are depressed and are stressed, sometimes they comfort themselves with excess food. They eat things that they shouldn't eat or they don't eat right. And so if you can have a balanced emotional life, it can also contribute to health in various ways. And I will add to that being spiritual, because if you are um, balanced spiritually, you're a happy person, you don't feel guilty of doing something wrong to somebody, it will also contribute in helping you to stay healthy. Those are some of the things that I will highlight right now. You can go into more details like ethnic groups, social cultural background, and things like that. But generally, these are some of the things that we can do ourselves. See, making sure that you go to your doctor. If you have health issues, you go to your doctor at least once a year so that they can check your blood pressure, make sure that your blood pressure is not rising and unnoticed. You don't wait until you have symptoms, almost having a stroke or even a heart attack before you go to an emergency room and they say your blood pressure is high. They can detect it very early, treat it, and it will slow the rate of degeneration or disease to your cardiovascular system, or even to mention diabetes or the cholesterol. So go to your doctor regularly. I know that in Ambazonia or in our countries, in underdeveloped countries, people only go to doctors when they're sick. They don't know what it means to have your doctor. I used to be a primary care doctor. Now I work mainly in the hospital. So I used to have my own patients in principle. In fact, entire churches came to be my patients. Even villages came. and wanting to be my patients. Those are people that they come and see you regularly, and you test them and describe to them what you have noticed that they can improve on for their health, like their blood pressure, whether they have diabetes, or you notice any changes in their kidney function or any other body part, and give them advice on how to protect themselves and live longer. And they come to the doctor not because they are sick, but just because they want to have a periodic health exam. Now, our people in Africa, I know most of them do not do that. We have very few doctors, and even if you try to do that, I'm not sure the doctors there truly understand what that means. So going to see your doctor regularly, especially if you have health insurance, is a good thing, at least once a year. Those are some of the things that I will say right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, you've concluded by saying that prevention is better than cure, really. Prevention is better than cure. So we have a video that we're going to play, a short video, but before the technician puts that video, I want to read some key facts about from the World Health Organization about cardiovascular disease. Cardiovascular disease are the leading cause of death globally. An estimated 17.9 million people died from cardiovascular disease in 2019, representing 32% of all global deaths. Of these deaths, 85% were due to heart attack and stroke. Over 3/4 of cardiovascular disease deaths take place in low and middle income countries. Out of the 17 million premature deaths under the age of 70 due to non-communicable disease in 2019, 38% were caused by cardiovascular diseases. Most cardiovascular disease can be prevented by addressing behavioral risk factors such as tobacco use, unhealthy diet and obesity, physical inactivity, and harmful use of alcohol, just as the doctors already explained. And finally, it is important to detect cardiovascular disease as early as possible so that management with counseling and medicine can begin. Again, just like the doctor said, prevention is better than cure. So if the technician can put the short video that we have, I think we'll get some more enlightenment.
Is the rampaging #1 killer in America, causing an astonishing 1 in every 4 deaths in this country. Add COVID-19 into the mix, and the urgency of heart health awareness amplifies. Whether you or someone you love is at risk, everyone should familiarize themselves right now with this crucial and potentially life-saving info on just how heart disease is most often detected, how it's treated, and how those you love can avoid becoming another statistic.
I remember one of my doctors said to me, if you could talk to your heart right now, what would you say? And the first thing I said was, why did you give up on me?
I was basically a walking time bomb that night. It was just a matter of when the bomb was going to go off.
I didn't realize that I had this silent killer in me. I was gonna be a guy in a casket with a six-pack.
Heart disease, the nation's #1 killer, claims 1 life every 36 seconds. Nearly half of Americans have a heart disease risk factor.
The beautiful thing about heart disease, whether you have some of these new unique risk factors, is that 90% of heart disease is completely preventable.
The bottom line for the public is know your risk factors.
Doctors nationwide are concerned about heart disease seen in patients presenting with one of 3 different risk categories: typical risk, invisible risk, and a new risk from COVID.
They said if it wasn't the heart attack that was going to kill me that night, it could have been the diabetes. My blood sugar was 580.
Kristen is a typical risk patient, someone with an underlying medical condition that increases their chance of developing heart disease.
The top 5 risk factors for heart disease are high blood pressure. So what is my blood pressure number? Am I a diabetic? What is my cholesterol? Obviously, no one should be smoking. And then your family history.
I died twice on the table. They had to do manual CPR twice and shock me 15 times.
They called a clergy person for me. And I just held her hand. And I just told her I loved her.
It really wasn't until About 9 days later, when they took the intubation tubes out, that I understood fully what had happened.
Invisible risk patients have no underlying conditions, but risk factors hide in their DNA. Health and fitness expert Bob Harper was one of these patients.
Big pull.
You may know him as The Biggest Loser's longtime trainer turned host.
I was in my gym working out, and the next thing I knew, I was waking up in a hospital 2 days later being told not only did I have a heart attack, but I had gone into cardiac arrest. And it was the quick thinking of the people in that gym to call 911, and there happened to be a doctor in the gym that day. I was embarrassed. I thought, how did this happen to me?
What you're doing, you're actually programming a game.
George Garrett has a new risk that doctors are monitoring, one fueled by COVID-19.
There are some patients who have COVID and they get what we call myocarditis, which is inflammation of the heart muscle. It is a very small subset of the COVID population, but it does happen.
I've never had any history of heart conditions prior to this. Didn't have an active infection. My wife was able to visit me, and that's the day the atrial fibrillation began.
One of the darkest moments of my life was when they took him to shock his heart. I was scared I would never see him again.
But doctors say there is hope, and it's all about understanding your risk.
I'm doing the best I can to move my life forward. I still coach football, I'm still coaching track. I'll more than likely tell my players to pay close attention to their body and listen to it.
You can't wait until you're in your 30s to start caring about what happens to your heart. If you feel off, don't ignore it. Go get checked.
I am so lucky to be sitting here in my house right now, and I realize that our lives can just go in a second.
So as you've just seen, it is so important to recognize that you or someone you love may still be at risk even without any of those telltale risk factors.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel.
Thank you so much, our technician. So that video really explained most of the things that you already said, Doc. And I just want to highlight something that I came across. And that is why you've already explained that people need to go see the doctor. They need to have a physical, that they need to know their baseline. Prevention is better than cure. So they highlighted hypertension, diabetes, cholesterol, high cholesterol level, and of course factors that you have no control over, genetics, health factors that are family related. You have no control over that. But knowing all those things, having control of your numbers is very important. Doc, I just want us to really, before we continue, maybe address what are some of the signs and symptoms that somebody really may be having a heart problem or heart attack. What should you look out for? Because something like hypertension, they say hypertension is a silent killer. You don't have symptoms. There are no warning signs. But what would somebody who has a heart problem or heart disease? What are some of the signs and symptoms?
Well, generally, it's going to depend on the true illness that is affecting the heart, because the heart has different parts, like we mentioned. You have the muscle that pumps, you have the valves that open and close, like a door that you open and close, you have the electric system. So it would depend on that. But most often, you will feel like something is wrong with your heart. You may be unusually weak and easily getting tired. Sometimes you may get dizzy. You're getting dizzy because the flow of blood to your brain is not uniform as it should be. And then you check yourself. Like we talked about the blood pressure. Thankfully, for those living in countries like the United States, if you go to a store like Walmart or a pharmacy, they have corners where you can check your blood pressure. You can go sit there and wait at least a couple of minutes, like 2 or 3, before you press a button, and the machine will be able to check your blood pressure and give you an idea what your blood pressure is. You write that down and take. And people can even buy blood pressure devices and take it home that they can use once in a while to check their blood pressures. And otherwise, it's also wise to see your doctor. So those are some of the basic, simple things. But generally, you will feel like something is wrong with your health. If you feel in your spirit that something is wrong with your health, and it could have something to do with your heart, then check it out. Don't wait until you have the alarm symptoms of a true acute heart attack, like what we call the chest pain, which makes you call 911 before they take you to the emergency room. You don't want to wait for that because that may be the last one, where before the 911 arrives, before the emergency team arrives, you may have already even died and they just came to pick you up to pronounce you dead. So if you feel like something is wrong with your health is not perfect, you need to get checked, then do something about it and see a doctor. If you don't have money, I know some people don't, like I mentioned, even if you go to one of our usual stores, once in a while, check your blood pressure. Just sit in the corner where they have that device, wait a while, like 2, 3 minutes, put in the information, press the button, and see what your blood pressure reading is. And if it is above, say, we used to say 140 over 90, but now we're more stringent. We take 130 over 80. But whatever the case, if the number is high, um, then you want to make sure you see a doctor and you watch out with your food. You cut back on unnecessary salt. There's a lot of food that has too much salt in this country, even things like peanut. Some people take pleasure in, as soon as they get food, the first thing they do is to add salt. Less salt is better than much salt. And it is better to cook with less salt because you can add salt to food that has already been cooked. It is not easy to subtract salt from food that has already been cooked. So cook with less salt. And if somebody thinks they need to add salt, then they can maybe sprinkle a little bit on it. But avoid things that are very salty because the salt increases the volume of fluid in your vascular system and that increases your blood pressure. And one of the major advice we give patients with high blood pressure is cut down on salty foods and then of course be physically active. So those are some of the things. If you feel like something's wrong with you, maybe with your heart, you're getting unusually weak, you get easily short of breath doing simple tasks, you get dizzy, then you know that something may be wrong with your cardiovascular system. It's nice to get checked or at least check yourself in a store to have an idea of what your blood pressure is. If you have the money, buy a blood pressure device and use it at home.
Yes, Doc. Thank you so much. So some people, there are some pictures that we've seen of videos of people complaining of pain or tightness in their chest, uh, or pain in their elbows or in their jaws that just come from nowhere. Um, what do you want to tell people? What should they do? How do they react to things like that?
That is the acute symptom, the very sudden symptom when a blood vessel has been blocked. So what actually happens is that the coronary artery already has plaques. The flow of blood is not much because of the blockage. It's just like plumbing in your house. If the plumbing is blocked, the water will not flow. So the areas below will not get enough water. So that area where there is cholesterol blockage is not enough blood is flowing through it, and because the blood is not uniform going through that area, it can suddenly clot. Just like when you put blood in a vessel, say in a basin or a pan, because it's not flowing, it thickens. So blood can thicken in that area, totally cut off circulation, and that area of your heart that is supposed to get food, nutrients, is not getting. And the signal is this: the alarm signal is the acute chest pain syndrome. That's what everybody will tell you. And that pain will radiate to different parts. It's usually like where your heart is, like I mentioned, to make a fist, put it to your left side, pointing towards your breast area or nipple. That's where your heart is. Most often it will be on the left side of your chest, and it can radiate to the left arm, it can radiate to the jaw, it can be associated with sweating, dizziness, but the pain can also go different places. It can go into your abdomen, but it is so severe that the patient will not do nothing about it. That is the kind of pain that you will hold your heart like somebody stabbed you with a knife. Or sometimes they say it felt like an elephant, a very heavy object sitting right on top of my chest. As I said, the pain is so severe that almost anybody who does not have insurance will do everything to even call 911 to go to the hospital. But don't wait for that, because that could be the last pain that kills you before you go to the emergency room. It's nice to start early and check yourself and see your doctors regularly to prevent it coming to that level.
Yes, Doc. Thank you so much. I'm a pharmacist by profession, and a couple of days ago, this young man came to the pharmacy, and he said, "Doc, this is the first time that I'm on medication." He looked lean and fit. He said he has never been on a medication, but now he's coming to the pharmacy to pick up about 5 or 6 prescriptions. Why?
Mhm.
Because he just had a heart attack a couple of days ago, and he
Mhm.
was ashamed. He said, "How can I have a heart attack? I am fit, I do everything right." And then he's coming to the pharmacy for the first time to get 5, 6 prescriptions for because of heart attack. So let's talk
Mhm.
about the treatment. What normally, I know I'm a pharmacist, but I'm going to have you take care of this anyway.
Mhm.
What are the
Mhm.
normal medications that they use for taking care of heart attacks?
So again, there are so many. So again, we are focusing here on the blockage of the arteries that direct blood into the heart muscles. That is the one that we're actually focusing here. Remember, the heart has many components, and they can get sick. The muscles themselves can get sick, and the vessels can be good. So we're focusing here on that. So those vessels, when they are blocked, or they're calcified, and they block, and they lead to a heart attack, which is unfortunately already late. That's what we want to prevent from happening. And the patient ends up in the hospital. What happens is that the cardiologist, they will they will take a needle, go through an artery, go right close to your heart, inject a dye, and see the area where the blockage is. And sometimes they can put a wire in there and push the cholesterol to the walls of the vessels to create more room for blood to flow. That's what we call a stent. Basically, they're just pushing the cholesterol that is already on the wall towards the end of the blood vessels to create more room for blood to flow. And I give you medicines to prevent the clotting, like aspirin, and there are so many other different ones. They can add aspirin. They have so many different ones as well, and then we also give other medications like beta blockers. Again, this is something for doctors, which will regulate your heart rate and help with the heart situation. If your blood pressure was high, they will also add medicines for your blood pressure. So there are different reasons why he's on 6 medicines. That it must mean that they found many more things. But generally, once they've opened the vessel, they put you on medications that reduce the blood from clotting. Then they also give you cholesterol medications to reduce cholesterol from building up. They have been able to demonstrate that some of those medications, the very strong, powerful ones, they also help to stabilize the plaque so it doesn't get worse, besides not building up. The one that is there, it stabilizes it so that it doesn't crack. Because when the cholesterol plaque cracks, then it's easier for the blood not to flow smoothly and then to clot off and cause the acute heart attack. So cholesterol medicine is one of them. If you if you have a heart attack, they're going to give you a cholesterol block medication. Then the blood clotting medications, and then also some beta blockers, and they may even add some medications for blood pressure depending on what your blood pressure was.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So
Mhm.
we are learning from this that heart disease cannot be cured. It can only be managed. So,
Mhm.
and the only reason we have to know that it's important to know your numbers, so that when you manage it properly, then the chances of the heart failing to have a heart attack that may cause death are very slim. So for
Mhm.
people that are in the home front and ground one that may not have all the resources, um, you mentioned about lifestyle, and I am very, very particular about lifestyle. I say my health is my wealth. I rather
Mhm.
buy food than buy clothing. That's
Mhm.
my philosophy. I
Mhm.
buy myself healthy food. I try to eat as much healthy food as possible. So my money is really going to food and the struggle. I rarely buy clothing. I just tell myself that I have enough clothes. I wear something over and over again. That's my philosophy. You can do the same if you want to. But I want to take a moment and talk about something that I recently learned. And this is more for people that are on ground one, because
Mhm.
they don't really have access to doctors and all the like. You talk about healthy food. I just want to share this that I found out recently about things that you can do at home to control hypertension, because that's one of the risk factors for heart disease. I learned that you can do some slow, deep breathing where you can, for about 5 to 10 minutes, where you inhale, you exhale. You do slow, deep breathing, like 3 times a day. That is one way you can do to just regulate your blood pressure a little bit. Then salt intake, you already talked about that. Low salt. Don't add salt to food. And most of us that live in in the developed world, we have access to all this fast food that is piled with salt. You need to cut all that down. Take it out of your diet. And then fruits and vegetables. Something that I have to read before I even continue. I came across this article, 5 amazing facts about the human heart. And the first one that I just want to read now before I'll continue about talking about what I was saying, is that the best food for your heart, Doc, you want to guess the best food for your heart? That is a vegetable. Are you frozen? I don't know if Doc is frozen. Anyway, I'll continue. The best food for your heart might be bananas. Bananas. So we have access to bananas back home and in the diaspora. So eat a banana a day. That may just help with your heart health. While we wait for Doc to come back, I was talking about food. So bananas, strawberries, vegetables, garlic, onion. We have garlic and onion. We have access to that back home a lot. Strawberries may not be that accessible, but those of you in the diaspora, you have access to strawberry, spinach. Those are very important food that may help bring down blood pressure. Celery is another food that can help bring down blood pressure. Most important, especially for those back in the home front and ground one, low alcohol intake. Low alcohol. And when we talk about alcohol, a 12-ounce bottle of beer, that's one drink, and that's all you're entitled to. If you drink more than that, you're increasing your chances of hypertension, increasing your chance of heart disease. So when we say a drink a day, if you're drinking beer, it's one bottle of 8 ounces. And back at home, we have these big bottles that is more than 8 ounces. Well, I will say that share that with a friend. And then sleep. Sleep is so important. And I'm guilty of that. I don't get enough sleep, and most people don't get enough sleep. We need to sleep a minimum of 7 hours, ideally 8 hours a night. Ideally 8 hours a night. Sleep. Reduce sleep. If you have less sleep, your chances of having high blood pressure increases. Your chances of having heart disease increases. And then exercise. We've already talked about exercise. Doc mentioned you need to be active. At least 30 minutes of exercise every day, at least. And those are some of the things you can do to reduce your chances of hypertension, because that's one of the leading causes of heart diseases. I don't know if Doc is back. It looks like there's some technical issue. If he's back, I have another question for him. But until I see him on the screen, I will continue talking. So I came across this article, 5 amazing facts about the human heart. And I'll read this while I wait for Doc to come back. 5 amazing facts about the human heart. Number 1, the blood vessel to your heart are the most likely to clog. The blood vessels to your heart are the most likely to clog. The reason? Blood flows in 2 directions in many arteries, creating turbulence that can damage artery walls, which makes it easier for plaque to set in. And coronary arteries have lots of branches and bends, which are prime real estate for atherosclerosis. So Doc went through this already about when he described the anatomy of the heart. He talks about blood vessels. Number 2, nearly half of all heart attacks have no symptoms. Nearly half of all heart attacks have no symptoms. According to a 2016 Wake Forest University study, that's what they came out. No symptom attacks were more common in men, but deadlier in women. So, Doc, I was talking about foods that are very important in reducing heart problems, and I mentioned bananas. I'm not sure whether you want to talk about that briefly.
So one thing that I wanted to share with our people is that number one, they should not feel guilty that they are missing out because they are not in the Western nations. Um, the diseases that are peculiar to the Western nations, like those kinds of foods that lead to atherosclerosis, those are the demons that we are fighting when we come here. I want to tell them that just by living where we are, if you live as naturally as we live, eat our regular foods, those food that we grow around the house, our plantains, our bananas, our fruits and vegetables, you are actually living much healthier than many people who are struggling to survive here because the food here leads to those kinds of blockages. And then also, when you are very active there, thinking that you don't have a car, you seem to be walking a lot on foot, but actually you are exercising your body and doing a lot of work is healthy for you. So I don't want people to feel guilty or feel like they have been left behind or they have been left out because they are living back on in our homeland or in the home or in ground one. They actually have an advantage to many people who are living over here. We have to spend money to be able to eat the kind of good food that you have over there that people take for granted and avoid the foods that look attractive here but are not really healthy for our heart here in this country. So that's one thing that I would like to share with them. Also, you see, our people like to dance a lot. Um, we hope they are good dances, but that dancing is physical activity for your body. You're already making your steps. You're already exercising a lot of your body, which is good and healthy for your heart. So it's not necessarily by owning large cars, driving a lot, sitting and looking that you think you're enjoying life. You may not live long with that. It's really by being physically active, eating natural foods, and you would actually be much healthier than many people who are here. And if you can remember and you can afford, you can also see a doctor regularly to just for a checkup. If you can remember that, just go to the doctor not only when you're sick, so they can check your blood pressure, do some lab work, and then you make sure you're comforted that your blood pressure is fine and things like that.
Okay, Doc, thank you so much. We will be transitioning to the next topic, the Gabu massacre. But before we go that, the technician will play a video. Before we do that, technician, is there any last word you want to give the people, Doc, before we transition to the next topic?
I just want, again, like I mentioned, I want to encourage them. Don't feel like you are disadvantaged or you have been left behind because you are not in the Western world. You actually have an advantage. Live as naturally as you can. When you walk, look at it as you are exercising. It's an advantage for you when when you use your body, when you walk, when you do things. Even when you're dancing, like in church, I use that as the better place to dance than other places. You are also exercising. You're also putting your body to work. And don't overeat. Alcohol is not healthy. People think that you're enjoying when you're drinking. No, you're not. We doctors used to think that a glass of wine is healthy for the body, but no, studies have not proven that wine is very healthy. We now say if you don't drink, don't start. And if you do drink, cut back and don't do anything in excess. Of course, don't smoke. It's not cool. You are reducing your lifespan when you smoke. Each drug, we call it a drug that you take, is you reduce your lifespan. So don't smoke. If you do, quit as soon as possible. It will save you money and you protect your health. You will live longer.
Great, great, great. Thank you so much. And I just want to end this section with this reminder that this month, again, the theme of the Heart Awareness Month is take up a heart healthy habit. Take up a heart healthy habit. So if you learn one thing or if you learn something from this show today, is for you to be responsible for your heart and take up a heart healthy habit. Thank you so much. Now, 3 years ago on the 14th of February 2020, we all awoken to disaster in our land. It was just unbelievable when we heard about what had happened in Gabu, the Gabu massacre, where gunmen got into this village and mowed down families, mowed down children, mowed down a pregnant woman. Why? Because they are Southern Cameroonians, because they are Ambazonians. And they got instruction from the top. They didn't just act on their own. They got instructions from the top to go to this village and kill people indiscriminately. That massacre, that atrocious act, spurred a lot of bitterness and anger amongst mothers, Ambazonians, the world at large. Because we've never seen anything like that in our land. That only goes to show that we are different. The people from the former British Southern Cameroons, or the area that was under the United Nations Trust Territory under Britain, or that area that was called West Cameroon, we are different from the people that got their independence on January 1st, 1960. We are different. Because you don't hear about things like that happening in their territory, where they go into a village and mow down people, including children and a pregnant woman. So, this is a 30-year anniversary of that. And if you Google the Gabu massacre, I think that's one of the massacres that has really resonated all around the world, where even the government of Cameroon acknowledged that they were guilty. The other massacres they blame Southern Cameroon, they blame people they call separatists. We know they are all the ones doing all the crimes. But this one, they could not hide from it because there was proof. So they had to take ownership of it, that they sent their own military to go kill our people. If the technician can put that little video for us to just remember what really happened.
Now, a damning admission of guilt in Cameroon, where government authorities have admitted that soldiers acting alongside a militia shot dead 13 civilians, including 10 children, in the respective northwest of the country in February. Officials had initially denied the army was involved in the killings in Ntumbu. In a statement released on Tuesday, Cameroon's presidency said 3 soldiers, along with members of a vigilante group, had stormed a separatist rebel base, killing 5 people before discovering that 3 women and 10 children were killed in court, end of court rather. In the firefight, it suggested the deaths were accidental, but soldiers tried to cover them up. The February 14 massacre in the village of Ntumbu in the country's northwest region stirred huge public reactions and condemnation. The United Nations, on its part, described it a shocking episode in the ongoing crisis that has afflicted Cameroon's northwest and southwest regions for the past 3 years. And a tally by the Human Rights Watch, HRW, said in total, 21 civilians were killed, including 13 children and a pregnant woman. Its version had blamed the attack on at least 10 troops from an elite army unit who were backed by at least 30 armed Fulani militiamen. All of this the government had denied, particularly that the army was involved. But President Paul Biya responded by ordering an investigation. And now, what do we have? A U-turn for the government, perhaps an embarrassing one, which still leaves doubts about the official version. For more on this, though, we are now being joined by African News' Natalie Wakam. Natalie, we would obviously I'd love to have you here in the studio, but indeed not a very easy one, especially during this coronavirus times. But this is some new twist to the February massacre in Cameroon. Tell us, what more do you know? What more do we know about the conclusions of the investigations launched by the Cameroonian head of state?
Bonjour Jerry. Le communiqué publié par le
Hello, Jerry. Firstly, note that the communique issued by the Secretary General at the Presidency of the Republic, Ferdinand Gongo, specified the reasons that led soldiers to the village of Gabu on the day of the tragedy. It said that the village had become, according to the Commission, a host center for the separatists and a center for supply of weapons. On the basis of this information, a small group of the army, accompanied by 4 members of a local militia, went to the village to neutralize the secessionists. An exchange of gunfire later took place, resulting in civilian casualties, 3 women and 10 children. The panic-stricken Cameroonian soldiers and militiamen then set fire to cover up their blunder, and these findings led to the reopening of legal proceedings against the soldiers concerned, which has already been made available to the Ministry of Justice, and the fugitive militiamen are currently being sought. And finally, Cameroonian authorities have decided to give a dignified burial to the victims and finalize findings necessary for the establishment of the truth, it said.
Natalie, a terribly interesting development there, I must say. Obviously, a sad one for the victims and their families, particularly knowing this time again we have the Cameroonian army in its raid, yet again, we should say.
Indeed, Jerry, it is worth pointing out that every time the army has been accused of misconduct or extrajudicial executions, many Cameroonian authorities have gone to great lengths to accuse international and local non-governmental organizations and even some private media of indicting the so-called professional army. In the case of Gabu, for example, the Minister of Communication, René Emmanuel Sadi, called the Human Rights Watch report totally unfounded and biased. There is also the story of 2 women and their very young children killed by Cameroonian soldiers at close range in the far north region, and which had provoked a slight stir in the country. It must be acknowledged that the 7 soldiers were subsequently charged. In any case, it is truly unusual to see Cameroonian government taking a position that admits the responsibility of its soldiers in a tragedy, and some reactions seem to note a turning point in the communication on such incidents. The United States Embassy in Yaoundé said yesterday that it was happy that Cameroon had decided to show transparency and bring to justice those responsible for the massacre.
And how important that is, justice. Natalie, can you tell us about the nature of this Anglophone conflict and the latest incidences?
Reports say that 2 notables have been killed by 2 armed men in Bambili in the northwest, Afunchui III, the font of Bambili near Bamenda in the northwest region of the country. And they were actually targeted probably by secessionists who are said to manipulate the youth of the village. And according to the font, peace was gradually returning to the area because since December, there have been no serious incidents before the assassination of the 2 notables. And to go by non-governmental organizations, more than 3,000 people have been killed and more than 700,000 others have had to flee their homes since the crisis began in 2017.
Indeed, that fighting against separatists have gone on in the region for 3 years. Natalie, I'd love to thank you for speaking with us this morning and sharing with us details.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Doc, I don't know how you want to react to that. Where were you when this happened, and how did you react to that news 3 years ago?
I was here in the United States. We all heard that. It's very heartbreaking and very unfortunate, and also characteristic of the wicked, cruel government of La Republique. I know some people in this forum may not have heard me using words like this, but that wicked, cruel government of La Republique de Cameroon is plagued by moral leprosy. Lying is customary with them. When they were doing that, they were trying to commit a crime, cover it up, and give the impression that it was done by Ambazonian fighters or restoration forces, so that the international community will accuse them or characterize them as terrorists. That's what the modus operandi has been. They commit crimes, terrorist activities. Somebody who commits terrorism, somebody who terrorizes people has and instills fear in them. That's what La Republique has been doing. They go around committing those terrorist acts, frightening people, putting them in fear, and then turn around and cover it up. When they talk of doing an investigation, what they are actually doing is they're buying time to cover up their crimes and try to push it or relegate it to the people that they want the international community to call terrorists. But thankfully, The United States and many other countries in the West know the truth. We have satellite that sees what is going on. They have details. Satellites are able to detect objects that are just 1 foot apart from each other, so they can see clearly who did and commit those crimes. That's why they couldn't deny that they did that, because they knew that they had been caught red-handed. So they pretended that these troops have been picked up and that they will be judged. But we have not seen them judged anywhere. That's what they do. These people are unreliable. They live in falsehood. You cannot trust them. They have been killing people for a long time, since 1961. Recently, we are hearing how people who say any negative thing about against the government, they have been killed in Yaoundé, over 150 of them, and recently one of them was exposed, and that's why they're pretending to be judging the people who killed them. So they have been killing people all the time, and they don't have any value for human life. Imagine these young, innocent children who don't even understand what the fight is about. Children who are 6 years old or so, they don't even know the history of Ambazonia. They don't know the history of colonization and what truly happened. It takes a long time for them to be properly educated about what happened. And then suddenly they are mowed down like this. That government is untrustworthy. We cannot deal with them. I think as we are doing, we have to separate from them. There is no other choice. You can't live with a devil in your house. Those people are very bad people. That's how I would react to that. I know some people have not heard me speak in those terms, but that's how I feel about it. The La Republique is a very bad government. They cannot be trusted. If you want to articulate all the things that they do, the Bible says it's disgraceful to
Yeah.
mention them. They are very bad people.
Yeah, that massacre was really something that opened our eyes to the type of wickedness that really exists in people that you thought would be good neighbors one day. And just for us to remember that that massacre wiped away families. I just want to read the names of some of those children that were killed. You know, this family had like 5 kids: Sika Yesminatu, Sika Amsa, Sika Alina, Sika Yamsi, Sika Sulaitu, Shay Diana, Shay Midian, Shay Jude, Shay Tracy, Shay Cynthia, Mary Angel, Berry Nui. So those are the names of about 12 children that we were able to get. The rest, we don't have their names. This is the future that is just taken away, Just think about a family losing all their children, and maybe the father may have survived or the mother may have survived, but the kids are all gone. We don't know the dynamics of all this. And till today, we have not seen the justice yet. Nothing has been published about the trial that they took to Yaoundé, because they should have had a trial in Bamenda so that the local people can go to Bamenda and witness and watch what was going on. They took this trial to Yaoundé, and nobody knows what is going on. Nobody knows what is going on. So there's no victim. There's no justice for all these people that have died for no reason of theirs, just because La République thinks that we are indispensable, or we are dispensable. They've called us dogs and cockroaches over the years. Bia, during the Paris climate conference, told the world that they try to assimilate us or integrate us in their system for so many decades and failed. So we really seen the truth of what they intended to do for us, because we must really understand that all we are interested is in the land that we own, the land that is flowing with milk and honey that God gave us. Milk and honey in the sense of a lot of riches, minerals, oil, you name it, and great land to cultivate for food. We have rich food. That's why you rarely see food coming from their part of the world to our part of the world. It's the other way around. Food leaves our part of the world and sticking to their part of the world because of the wealth, the richness in our soil. And they just want to take this. So for the people that do not really want to join and push this struggle to an end, for us to continue defending our home and finally get our home. When you think about the Gabu massacre, what do you really think about? Those who are on the fence. Have you seen any other massacre in La Republique territory or in East Cameroon? Because we are the former West Cameroon, they are the former East Cameroon. Have you seen anything in this magnitude in their land? No, you haven't. Because that only tells you that we are different from them. They don't care about us. So, Doc, we're going to be rounding up any moment now. Recently, there was a small, sometimes we talk about current event. There was I don't know if you saw this episode the other day of all these mothers, marching to Boya because their children had been kidnapped. They were marching in their numbers and demanded that their children be released. If you saw that, I'm seeing you're nodding your head. Maybe you want to make a comment on that.
Well, that is the way La Republique behaves. I mean, they have never changed. That's what they have always been. If you truly follow the history and have the details, they always act like that. It's actually very childish when you go into the details of what they do. It was La Republique military that went and killed CDC workers in order to accuse Ambazonian sons of having caused what they call terrorist acts when they are the terrorists. If you go and read the word terrorism, like I said, it's somebody who comes and causes fear and terror in people's head. People are living quietly and you come and instill fear in them. They are the people who went and did that, and then they came and carried young boys who were just playing their games, soccer. Young people are very dynamic. They want to be active. They want to do things. They were out there playing. They cannot sit in the house just sitting and waiting till the day Ambazonia is free. So they came and carried them all away. And these mothers, they carried these sons in their wombs for 9 months, went through the pain of birth to deliver them and nurse them to who they are today. And so they have a strong feeling and they wanted to go get their sons back. And they went there. Some were released, some were not released. I think a few are still being held in custody. They may have even killed some. And that is the usual way that very primitive, I consider that government a very primitive, it's not a civilized government, behaves. And it's very unfortunate. But with time, whether they like it or they don't, Ambazonia is going to be totally separated from them, just like daylight is different from nighttime. That's how we're going to be separated from them, because lies and truth cannot live together in the same house. One has
Absolutely.
to go.
Absolutely.
Right.
We really want to appreciate those mothers, those women, because it wasn't only the mothers of those kids. The whole community walked to Boya. That shows that it takes a village. That you don't, when you're faced with something of this magnitude, everybody is there to support you. I was really proud of seeing what all these mothers did, demanding that these children be released. And if, in fact, some of them have been killed, the truth will come out and La Republique will pay mightily for every. I always say this, that this war, we know that over 45,000 people have been killed. La Republique will pay for each and every one of those souls one way or the other. They will pay for it. They will pay for it. So we're going to be closing in a few minutes. Doc, I want you to give your closing comment, and then I will do my final comment, and then we'll be gone for the day till next week.
Yeah, we just want to encourage our people to say that we are with you in spirit. We're praying for you. We're doing everything as much as God enables us to help you people. Have faith in the truth. Don't be compromised by falsehood out of fear. It's not going to help. It's better to die for the truth than to pretend to live in falsehood, and you still die anyway. It's not going to benefit you in any way. That government called La République du Cameroon is not the government that is good for us. It's just a matter of time, and eventually we will be totally separated from that country and live as independently as, say, Ivory Coast is to Congo. Different countries, and we can decide to relate to each other, not even though we share borders with each other. They are not our brothers. Don't trust them. Don't believe that they can change. They are not going to change. When they pretend to change, it's like a snake that removes its skin. It only gets bigger and remains the same snake and more venomous and more deadly. So we don't have anything to do with them. That's what I would encourage you. Don't go out exposing yourself or trying to foolishly fight them by yourself. Don't do that. Remain quiet and calm. For the guys that God has selected to help us resist them, I pray for your safety and that you will be successful. But for our mothers and children, don't just go out and be stupid and foolish. Be wise and calm and quiet and stay indoors. And with time, we are going to be totally independent from La République du Cameroon. It's just a matter of time. You'll see it with your eyes.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we will not end this show without me reminding everyone that it's your patriotic duty to pay your Ambazonia Independence Due, AID. It is your patriotic duty to pay your AID. That makes you stand out. That makes you part of this struggle. If you don't pay your AID and you just sit at the side while others do it, what happens when we get our land? Will you feel as if you participated in the process? Will you feel as if you are entitled to being part of the nation building? It starts now. It starts by you doing your little bit. The ARF, we give them 21 gun salute because they are defending homeland. They're defending our families. They're defending our properties. What is it that you have to do as an Ambazonian, as a Southern Cameroonian? Pay your AID. And we'll end this program with me sing this one song that Doug knows about it. He will just nod as I sing. And I think it's a song that I just feel like I want to sing today. Mm-hmm. We are on the road, whoa, 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 we are on the road. We are on the road, whoa, 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 we are on the road. On our way to Amberland, we are on the road. On our way to Amberland, we are on the road. We will walk with God, whoa, whoa, whoa. We will walk with God. We will walk with God, whoa, whoa, whoa. We will walk with God. On our way to Amberland, we will walk with God. On our way to Amberland, we will walk with God. Thank you so much and see you next week.
Wonderful, wonderful. Wow, that's very good. Wow, that's great. That was...
You are watching The Horizon, the voice of the Amber Woman, exclusively on ABC Amber TV.